So we'll do a tier 9 just to kind of showcase the build a little bit. No snapshotting, no uniques, no nothing like that. We just go through and it's pretty easy. I really like this build. The whole idea is just speed and blinking everywhere, and it's really nice. See, I have no UBERS on, and I'll go over how it works and everything, but we'll just run through real quick just so you can see kind of how easy it is to go through. Typically takes us about like 5 minutes, which I'll probably just speed through as I'm going through this part. Probably helps if I could like navigate better, but you also do, it is pretty important to like keep your shields active, otherwise things can kill you. But the idea is that you just keep a shield on all the time, and therefore you cannot die. I usually don't have damage numbers on either because it kind of makes it a little bit harder to see. Really nice with the mana thing, because then you can just blink like infinitely. Yep. Not gonna lie, it's getting a little scary with the numbers on.
I'm not ready yet. I'm out of mana. I need time to prepare.
Trying to make it lag.
Precious mana. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I lack the amount of mana.
There you go. Well, that's a tier 9 done. Super easy. So the idea is we use the firebolt and the teleport enchantment. Teleport makes it so that our dodge is a teleport. So when we teleport, we get an overshield, which makes us hard to kill. Then we have regular blink that gives us a shield. All of our cooldowns basically give us a shield, but the main two that you're using is just teleporting back and forth between mobs, getting overshields, getting your stuff back. We're using overflowing energy so that our chain lightnings or our crackling energy is also giving us more teleport back. You could not be like me and use your ultimate more, which I just don't really use it that often as I should probably. I'm just ball lightning and teleport do enough. We have the added raiment that makes it so every time we teleport, we're sucking things in and stunning them, which increases our damage as well. Aspect wise, as far as gear, on the helmet, we're using the vulnerable damage. Our vulnerable enemies do less damage. With our curses, we'll make everything vulnerable, so everything just does less damage to us. Honestly, you could probably get away with not using this and use something like Godslayer Crown just to get a little bit more damage. But I find that this is situationally a little bit more helpful. Raiment of the Infinite, obviously, because we want to stun everything. Fist of Fates also adds to our damage. You do need a good roll of it. If you don't have a good roll of it, then I would just run gloves with like damage to vulnerable when you have a barrier, because you're gonna have a barrier all the time. But Fist of Fate and its lucky chance to immobilize, which increases your damage. Daze, which gives you more CC. Resource. Everything about this works very well for what we're doing. The randomness of the percent damage is kind of iffy though. Sometimes I feel like I don't like it that much, but overall, if it's 300% that you're getting, then most of the time you would average at 150, which is like a 50% increase in damage overall, which works. And then just the adding everything else, the extra crowd control, the immobilize is super good. Where this really comes into play is with the pants. Well, you want a better roll of disobedience than I have, but again, a lot of build making to make this work. Disobedience, more armor. You're always going to be damaging stuff. You're almost going to always have a full stack of the armor. Ranks of ball lightning is going to be super important because it's a very big damage boost. And then the damage reduction while injured. The other two stats on this is kind of your preference. I would go with total armor and some other form of damage resist. But I feel like that could vary. The real important thing is a high roll of damage reduction while injured and the ranks of ball lightning. For boots, it's been a struggle getting the exact boots I want. I still don't really have it, but you do want the high damage reduction while injured. I would prefer movement speed, intelligence, or all stats would be really good. And I would go with ranks to teleport. I'd probably swap intelligence and my dodge chance, but ranks to teleport, ranks to flame shield, so flame shield lasts longer. I would probably flame shield's like that's okay, but ranks to teleport would be huge because the faster you teleport, the better this build works with itself. And the other really important thing is the up top here, the attacks reduce evades cooldown by seconds. That's what's giving you your blink, your dodge blink so frequently. Dagger, I have the increased crit chance aspect. Oh, boots, I also have the increased damage while they're unstoppable. I've been kind of back and forth between having a movement enchant or an extra damage thing. I think when pushing a little bit higher tiers than just like regularly farming the tier 9s, this comes a little bit more into play with the unstoppable damage. But this one I think could be more of your preference of your play style. Core mastery skills, above mana, we're always going to be above the mana pretty much. So you want the extra crit chance. It's very helpful. This is probably one you could swap out to, but I think that's pretty much the best for it. Mastery skill damage is what you want. Dagger for damage to close. Critical strike, lightning critical strike. Those two can be swapped out for pretty much whatever. Mainly just looking for mastery skill damage. Int would be very good. Damage to crowd controlled. Any source of like extra damage is good. But I like the critical strike damage. But we already have a lot of it stacked up through our Paragon, which we'll get into. Your offhand. Now this one is super important. Resource gen is like my top priority. Mana cost reduction is super nice. Crit chance, because this is one of the only things you can get crit chance on. As you see, mine has a low roll. If I could get a higher roll, that'd be really good, but it is what it is. And then your ball lightning gravitational. That's gonna be super good. Talrashas, because it's super busted. If you don't have one of these, definitely get yourself one. I have two rolls of this actually. One that does have the 14.5% damage increase for 4 seconds, but the resource gen is literally the lowest it can be. And I very much value the resource gen. More resource gen, more ball lightnings, more damage overall. So I'll take the 2% hit, which is ultimately about an 8% multiplicative hit, to just have more resource gen. For your other ring, there's two that you can alternate between. I would very much go for resource gen, crit strike. Lucky hit's good since we're using Fist of Fate, and crit damage can be iffy. I would go for max mana if I had a choice between. I'd probably swap out lucky hit for the max mana, but right now I'm using the increased damage to stunned. We're stunning everything with raiment. We're mobilizing, we're doing everything, so the extra damage is super nice. If you're having mana issues with this, I do have the alternative, which is mana regeneration is increased when you haven't taken damage. Now, as far as I've seen in my testing, if you're taking damage while you have a barrier, it doesn't affect this. It doesn't cancel your mana regen with this aspect. So if you have mana problems, this could be a very huge way to take care of that. If I am just trying to be more comfort with my runs, I can use the Melted Heart of Selig and pair it with the mana regen instead. But the damage does take a significant hit, and just with how this is set up, we don't need it. Amulet, this is also super important. Damage reduction while injured. With all of these stacking together, you end up with like quite a bit of damage reduction. I think I'm at 76%. I'll go look at that. Damage reduction while injured is 78%, which is a gigantic amount of damage resist. And when you have that barrier up, all that damage is being resisted towards your barrier as well, especially with like reinforced, which we'll go over in the Paragon. The Ranks of Devouring Blaze is huge. Again, we are also immobilizing through Fist of Fate, so that just gives us even more benefit to the damage from that. Ranks of all mastery skills, because the more ranks of ball lightning, the more it hits for, and it does scale pretty freaking well with damage. Like, so the four skills from ball lightning on the pants, I think that alone gives almost like 22% of a damage increase, which is kind of crazy. So these three would give somewhere close to that. And then I have mana cost reduction. Again, I very much value the mana cost, just because that means more ball lightnings. If any aspect I was going to replace on this, it would be the mana cost reduction for something else, but I don't really know what I would rather have there. Total armor could be nice just for a little bit more, because we struggle as Sorks being squishy, but ultimately, yeah, I would go with this exact roll. If I could have a higher percentage on my damage reduction, that'd be great, but I don't. So, it is what it is. As far as vampiric powers, I am running Infection for the Talrashas. We are running Resilience because this is a damage reduction while low life build. Prey on the Weak with a Cursed Touch because that's our source of vulnerable for everything, because we aren't using the Chain Lightning enchant. And then Ravenous, because Ravenous is just the best freaking perk ever. More attack speed for just doing what you're doing, which is super nice. As far as the build, the talent tree has been super weird. Ranks the Firebolt just for the enchantment. We do want Elemental Dominance as well as, well, one Brink and Devastation just to get to Elemental Dominance, which is just more damage to our mastery, because everything is going to be cast above 50 mana. Flame Shield, this is a very good cooldown immunity. I don't know any sort of build that can go without Flame Shield. It's just super good. We are upgrading it to mythical just so while we have Flame Shield we can do a lot more Ball Lightning chains. Our star of the show is Teleport for this build, so we do want as many ranks as you can Teleport. If I could get my hands on Shaco, that would be 100%, that would be incorporated into this build if I was going to put an Uber Unique into it. It's just 4 ranks to not only Teleport but Ball Lightning. It's super good. But again, as I've shown, this build doesn't need the Uber Unique to work in the AOZ. It just would be helpful. Shimmering Teleport for just more damage reduction because that's super good. Ice armor, we are picking up just the first rank, but ice armor lasts very long, and with this build you're pretty much immune when ice armor is there, so I don't really use it that often. But well, I mean, I use it often, but you're really popping it when you know you're going to be dealing with ads for a while and you just kind of want that comfort of like, I don't want to die here. Or like if they're doing the extra stuff like the explodey balls that are underneath them, stuff like that. I was messing around with glass cannon as well, points there just for extra damage. It's not really necessary. We're already getting 2 ranks from our raiment. 1 point into element attunement just so we can reset a defensive. You really don't need more than that. Ice blades, we're putting 1 rank into ice blades just to have it for Talrashas, and it being an extra cooldown is nice. The other builds have been using this for the cooldown to kind of do something similar to what I'm doing, but I like blinking around a lot, so this is kind of a variant of that, and really doesn't rely on uniques, uber uniques, and I like that. I did put 3 points into align the elements. Again, I think with the barrier, if you're taking damage even in the barrier, I don't think it cancels this out, so this ends up being very useful, especially for the end bosses, because they are elites. You are taking even more reduced damage from them, and it's just super beneficial. Max point to mana shield because we're doing barriers and protections for getting more barriers. Conjuration mastery, this is a little bit beneficial for us. We are putting 3 points, but it's not like super crazy needed for the extra damage. It just gives us a little bit more extra damage when we pop our ultimate. I might actually move those points. Icy Veil is super important because our barriers last longer. This gives like a whole another second on ice barrier, which is super huge. And it's like point something seconds on the regular barriers, which isn't super crazy, but it is noticeable when you're going through the dungeons. Ball Lightning, you want as many points into it as you can get. We are going to Wizard's Ball Lightning just so we have crackling energy everywhere. We're not using a mana thing, so we need that. Static Discharge and Vigorant Conduit, just to get as many crackling energy as we can, and also to get mana back. We're doing 1 point into Coursing Current just to get Electrocution, because again, this is more damage reduction, which is super good. Honestly, I might mess with a variant where we don't need this, because our damage reduction while injured is just so high that we don't super need a lot of the other ones. And then unstable currents, I'm just getting the prime one just for the extra attack speed. We don't need the extra there. And then overflowing energy. Again, the point of overflowing energy is literally just to give us more blinks faster. And it seems like a big thing to use for your key passive when it's just like, oh well, it's just one cooldown slightly faster, but it makes it significantly faster. And every time you blink, you get a shield. When you get a shield, you can't die. You can't die, then you do more damage. You do more damage, you win. If that makes sense. It's a chain. The chain of just blink, blink, blink. You're just constantly blinking and sucking everything to you while you're blinking and just moving through at a fast pace. It's so very nice. The Paragon board, I'm going to put a link in the vid for my choices of Paragon board. We are picking up a little bit of resistance because we do want some more survivability, but for the most part you're just going to kind of have to follow. As far as glyph choices, elementalist, because we are cycling through our different damages and this is a multiplicative damage. I have also debated if there would be something better for damage than this, but I think elementalist ultimately is the best just because it is multiplicative when you get your extra damage. Not to mention it gives you additional non-physical damage, which is kind of nice. Up here in our elemental summoner board, we are going with enchanter. Again, more non-physical damage. Super nice. Not really using it for the extra bonuses to glyphs, but it is more powerful enchantments, which I actually don't think. Oh yeah, we're actually doing this for more resistance to those elements because we are using flame and lightning, so it kind of jumps up our resistances a little bit, which is super nice. As far as the Tears of Blood, I am using it in the Flame Feeder board, which is up next, or not Flame Feeder, Burning Instinct. The reason I have it here is one, to boost our damage reduction from burning enemies because everything's gonna be burning because we have the enchantment, and to boost our damage to burning enemies as well as the normal super boost that it does to you in general. Down here we go to our static surge board. There I'm going to put reinforced. This is super huge. I don't know if the build would work without this because you do gain 15% damage reduction while you have an active barrier, so it's just more damage reduction on top of what you already have. Super useful. Next board we have Frigid Fate. Frigid Fate is working with all kinds of damage, not just cold, so this is super needed to pick up. You're missing out on a lot of damage multiplier by not getting to it, which right now we have what, 20%. Yeah, not bad at all. The glyph we're doing is destruction. We are using stuff that gives us more crit, so destruction does come in handy. And yeah, we'll go down. This board is the Enchantment Master. We are using Adept. I am very iffy on this glyph because it does seem to work sometimes it doesn't. I don't really know. If I was to replace this with anything, it'd be Flame Feeder, just for more additive damage to our burning damage. And then finally we do control. With this build we are stunning and we're crowd controlling all the time, so this just ends up being a lot of multiplicative damage to benefit from. And the board we put it in was just the Searing Heat, and Searing Heat is just really quick to get to its thing. That's why we're doing it. I will mess around with this Paragon a little bit because I might actually shrink it down just to get more of the extra stats. Like Flame Feeder has damage reduction from elites. That could be very beneficial, especially in pushing higher tiers, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, that's the build. Super nice. Again, the whole idea is that you consistently are just blinking through everything and you will always have a shield. Like I can sit here, keep casting stuff. I will always have a barrier on, and nothing can break my barrier with the damage reduction that I have. So enjoy it, have fun. Let me know what you think about it, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.